Hello and welcome to FontCast, Tasmania's top-rating political podcast. I'm Becher, Townshend, and today I'm joined by my business partner, Brad Stansfield.
Hello, Becher. Hello, Sam.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
Hello. As we take a bit of a look at this week's federal budget and the latest happenings in Tasmanian politics. If you're wondering where David Killick is, well, what I can tell you is he was last spotted in Lycra at Tuesday night's public meeting about the proposed Collins Street bike lanes and hasn't been seen since. I can only assume he's still celebrating somewhere.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right, Beach. And truth be told, probably best he's not here. He would be intolerable, wouldn't he?
Now they have a big win.
Yeah.
I've been keeping out of the look. You could say that, but
Yeah.
He was
the lycra clad.
he was out and proud, I think it would be fair to say. Anyhow, there it is, and good on him. Anyhow, all right, look, before we
Happy for him.
Yes, aren't we all are.
we all are, yes, he's had
Riding safety now.
Yes. He's had, and anyhow. But before we go into politics at hand, we've got something really important to discuss. Sam, our regular listeners might be aware that you've had some personal challenges that you've been facing in recent times.
Yeah, well, I'm facing cancer, but so I'm going to take you through the quick story. I suppose I lost a bunch of weight, changed my diet, and started, looking after myself at the age of 46.
Yep.
And lost a bit of weight, and I thought, oh wow, look at these muscles, I can feel them, and then I'm like, oh, hang on, that's only on one side. So went to get it checked out. Turns out it was a thing that they wanted to pull out, so they cut it out. And they're like, this is bad. So every appointment from that point was catastrophically worse every single time. Until eventually they're like, you've got this extremely aggressive, very rare cancer that we don't quite know what to do. They initially didn't want to put me through a full body PET scan before doing something else. And at some point I'm like, stop. All right, you say this is so aggressive. Let's do a PET scan. That's where they give you radioactive sugar. Sugar binds to cancer cells. You can see tiny little cells. They flare up, right? And so that we did the PET scan, and my chest looked like it was looked like we're coming into Land of Vegas at night. It was just there's and we're talking a few bigger nodules, but mostly tiny little ones. Very difficult. There's no way to operate. So we're looking at, treatments. Unfortunately, it's such a rare cancer. There's not a whole lot of studies done on it, but we have found some. And one of the drugs that is used quite widely and is on the PBS for some diagnoses, but not my diagnosis. But that turns out that has worked quite well in other patients. Unfortunately, that costs tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, depending on how much you need.
Yep.
So, I was left kind of in this. I'm not a wealthy person. But so what do? I've started a crowdfund. That's what everyone else does. And within a week, we've just gone over a week, and we're about halfway towards the goal. So
Wow. Okay.
I'm just blown away by the generosity of my friends, of Tasmanians, of you guys in particular as well. You guys have been incredible.
Yeah.
And that it's there's something's hit me, but it's not just me. My partner is struggling. She's still working full time.
Yeah.
And she's got so much on her plate. We have a 3-year-old as well. And I have 2 other kids. So and all of the kids are pretending that they're fine, but they're not.
Okay.
It's a very it's a shitty situation. Sorry if it's wearing.
No, that's all right. So the good thing that I can see, Sam, is you're fighting the good fight for what it's worth.
Well, yeah, I'm going to fight. That's right. Of course I will. I'll do whatever I can, and until there is no breath left in me, I will fight. And
good.
C.S. Lewis said that his only prayer is that when he dies, hell celebrates because he's out of the fight.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
I think sometimes when you get to that point where you ask yourself the question, have I had a crack? You should be able to answer, yes, I have. All right. Well, mate, that's a challenge. I think that's a bit of an understatement.
Yeah.
But it's a journey we'll all take together, is all I can say from my point of view.
It's something that nobody, I think, gets a cancer diagnosis, and it just, it's a big life-changing event, and yeah, that's where we are.
All right. Well, if you want to help out Sam, the address for giving is www.givesendgo.com/Sam-Ikin. That's www.givesendgo.com/Sam-Ikin, and no doubt we'll drop the URL in the podcast somewhere.
That's right. That's IKIN for November.
Now to the unimportant stuff, the federal budget. Brad, I know you're not an esteemed economist,
Oh, no, I'm not.
merely a veteran political strategist. Yeah, that's it. But what do you make of the federal budget? You've definitely seen a few over the years.
Yeah. No, look, I think it did the job from Labor's perspective. It was a budget, I think we all agree, they weren't intending or planning to deliver. So
No?
to get something out that workmanlike in that time frame was a good effort.
Yep.
I do think Chalmers set a trap regarding the tax cuts.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I think initially the opposition did walk into that trap. Fair enough. The tax cuts are piffle, and you don't want to support them, albeit you're the party of lower taxes. Fine, but the messaging around it was not good, because rather than saying, look, we're not going to stand in the way of it, but what we're going to do, i.e. cut the petrol excise, it's going to be way, way better. And I think that has been a good positive announcement. What it allowed was the conversation about the budget to be dominated by the tax cuts.
Yep.
So we've had 2 days of tax cuts, Labor's budget, and no one's mentioned the fact that there's a $42 billion deficit forecast for next financial year, deficits of $30 billion plus for the next 10 years. All that stuff's been lost, swept under the carpet, because I think a little bit clumsily the opposition has allowed the conversation to be about tax cuts, which is exactly what Mr. Chalmers, Dr. Chalmers, Doctor of Political Science, by the way,
Political science.
would have wanted. So, did the job, nothing special. I always say with budgets, they're sort of set within first 24 hours.
Yep.
And I think that people have made a decision about it, and now they're looking forward to the election campaign.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look, I do agree with you, Brad. I've got to say I was surprised by the coalition's response. In terms of the budget, I really think it's sort of pointing to giving the government high ground, I've got to say. Lots of imagery of smiles from Chalmers and Albanese, and sort of grumpy looks from the coalition. I think they miscalled it. I can't see it any other way. And it's certainly looking like Labor's in the ascendancy at the moment. That's what I'm seeing out of it. It'll be interesting. We've got the budget in reply tonight. Be interesting to see where we go with that.
Well, we've seen it. It's in the papers today. It's the fuel excise cut, which I think is a bold counterplay.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll get back into the conversation. We're going to give money now, so until in 18 months' time or 12 months' time, whatever it is. So I think it has been a strong counterplay, but the intervening couple of days definitely not to the coalition's advantage, I think.
And anything in the budget for Tassie, did you think?
Well, no, it was a damn squib. But I mean, I've listened to the radio last night, ABC, accidentally, and Senator Nick McKim came on, so twice accidentally there. I was hoping he was going to wave a fish around or something, but no. But he was saying that there was not much in the budget for Tassie, and I think that's an accurate assessment. There wasn't there's a whole lot of re-announcements, but we'd already seen all of those. We saw the opposition leader here last weekend running around making a number of major announcements, most particularly the freight equalisation scheme being, in her words, turbocharged. I think people would have been looking to Labor to announce that or something better in the budget. They didn't. one can only assume they're keeping their powder dry for the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, well, all I can say on the TFES is fingers crossed. It's certainly overdue for an increase, that's for sure. I hope these other initiatives or these other matchings to what the Liberals have already pledged comes out during the campaign. That's for sure. I assume that's the case. But anyhow.
In terms of tax cuts, is that not something that will be quite easy to counter? I thought it was pathetic that the coalition couldn't come up with anything bigger, and we're talking $150 tax cut in 15 months. Honestly, you've got so many taxes to choose from that you could...
Well, I think the fuel excise they've announced today is that counter. So they're saying, we'll cut your fuel excise now in half.
Cut it in half. How about scrap fuel excise and replace it with nothing?
Well, they could do that, but, I suppose half of something's better than all of nothing, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah.
And we'll get that pretty well when we go and fill up with the next tank. So, we in terms of the Tassie thing, I don't think there was much there. That said, I don't think there was much in the budget, full stop. I think your description of workman-like was pretty accurate. But one of the reasons why I think the budget sort of got drowned out a bit here in Tassie was nationally was around the salmon legislation. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's like the mainland media finally discovered Tasmania. And it happens every now and then. It's like occasionally the ABC sends a journalist off to the Derwent Valley or King Island and he discovers it.
Yes.
It's like the national media discovered Tasmania. They discovered the West Coast.
This quirky little state.
We've been down here battling away for 18 months as the environmentalists try to shut the West Coast down, and the West of Australia's just worked it out. Anyway, I did think the debate in the Senate and around that debate did take performative art to absurd levels.
Next level.
No, absurd beyond next. And let's be honest. I mean, for the most part, it was the opponents of the changes looking for votes and looking for donation dollars. To rock up at Canberra in the 11th hour and the 59th minute and suddenly say you're concerned about this legislation when you know you don't have the numbers. I mean, I think we can see what that was all about.
Yeah.
Where the normally genteel Green Senator Peter Whish-Wilson, yelling abuse at the Prime Minister, in his gym gear. Not a good look, Peter. Jackie Lambie being, Jackie Lambie.
Yeah. What did she do? Tell me.
Oh, just the usual.
I love it.
Sort of.
It's hilarious. Don't vote for her. She's a Green.
And Sarah Hanson-Young taking that dead salmon into the Senate.
Well, I was amazed at the sort of look of shock from others as she waved the dead salmon round, and I was thinking, well, how the hell would you get it in? How would you drag it in? And it was probably a bit on the nose,
Well, I don't think so. I reckon she just went down to the local fishmonger there in Canberra and just picked up a whole salmon, as you can do it. Didn't look stinking or manky to me. Looked quite ready to sort of serve up on the barbecue.
It was a prop. It didn't need to actually be from Kewen, but
that's true.
It
would have been good if she had started taking a bite out of it.
Rumour is it could have been Chilean.
Yeah, it could have been.
Full of disease.
Well, all I can say is thank God it wasn't alive anyhow.
You're old enough to remember when Bruce Goodlock came into the chamber dressed as a chook beach, or?
Yes, I am. I can. Well, I won't say I can remember it vividly, but I can certainly remember it. Certainly.
Dead salmon top that, or no?
I don't know. I can remember when Bob Brown threw himself on the bonnet of the Prime Minister's limo at the announcement of an RFA. It's definitely up there with those kind of stunts where, we need...
Very mature politics.
Yeah.
Pauline Hanson wearing a burqa.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
It's a proud tradition of senators doing silly things.
It's interesting, isn't it? And they're all from...
idiotic things.
Well, they're all from small parties seeking to get publicity, I suppose.
I guess it's the only way, right?
Yes. Anyhow, there you go. Well...
but, Beach, people would know, that we do work or assist both the West Coast Council and Salmon Tasmania. We have assisted them over the past 18 months on this matter. So, I don't want to talk about it too much, other than to say, of course, we're very happy, delighted with the outcome, as 400 workers on the West Coast are still, and their families, West Coast and broader, that still have a job and a school that's still open.
Still functioning.
But I do want to shout out, and he doesn't know about this, he'll be upset no doubt, but I do want to shout out to Luke Martin for all the fantastic work he has done over the past 18 months on this beach. We've worked with him. I know it's been very difficult for him at times, but it isn't an amazing outcome. And I would say, in my judgment, and I've been around Tasmanian politics for a little while, not as long as you, but a little while, and I think he's undoubtedly the best industry CEO and advocate in Tasmania, without a shadow of a doubt, and Sam and Taz are very, very lucky to have him.
Look, I was thinking about this 3 words: tenacious, determined and persistent would be my take on Luke. He has absolutely slugged away. He served the tourism sector well, and now he's served the salmon industry very well. This is a fantastic outcome, and he has just chipped away and chipped away and chipped away and managed to galvanise a sector that at times is not always galvanised, but he's done it, and he's done it well. So, yeah, good on him.
He has. And just one last thing before we move on from salmon. I mentioned at the start, the mainland media discovering Tasmania, and all of a sudden they're experts in environmental policy when it comes to Tasmania. I can tell you they ain't. I was watching, again accidentally, the ABC last night, and that 7:30 show came on, and the chief political correspondent is Laura Tingle, I think her name is, started suggesting that Peter George, the independent candidate in the seat of Franklin, somehow now has a chance of winning that seat due to the policy that the Prime Minister has enacted, supported by the Coalition, to save all those jobs on the West Coast. I mean, I would, zero chance.
Yeah.
Buckley's a none.
Yeah.
Please, political correspondents on the mainland, do your homework.
Yeah. Fair call. Right. 3 weeks on, moving on to state politics.
Yes.
3 weeks on from the Premier's bombshell State of the State speech, where he announced a swathe of initiatives, including privatisations. What do you make of the current stay of political play?
Yeah, there's a typo there in the script, isn't there? State even, yes. Well, look, I'm renowned for those, as you know.
You are.
I must say, it seems to have gone pretty well for the government. I think after people picked up their jaw out on the floor after the initial speech, and there's a sort of flurry of activity for the next 24, 48 hours.
Yeah.
I think it's quietened right down. Labor's privatisation scare campaign seemed to last about 5 minutes and then stopped, sort of stalled at the starting line of whatever you say in your car racing language, Beach. It still will come at some point.
Well, I don't know.
I think you say stalled at the starting
Yeah,
line.
stalled at the starting line. Well, what I do every time I try and get off the line, I seem to choke. So that's probably it. Anyhow, there you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has given, I think it's given the government a new pep in their step. It wasn't just a privatisation announcement, it was the announcement about the savings in the budget. It was an announcement about the war on red tape, which I must say, I think has gone very, very well, despite my initial cynicism. They've been able to keep that up for a number of weeks. And, the government, I think, has more momentum than they've had since they were re-elected as a result of that speech. Time will tell. There'll be a budget in May, and that's when the rubber's really going to have to hit the road in terms of whether those savings can be made real. But I think they would be pretty happy with where things are at.
Yeah, look, my sense is the government is definitely giving it a red hot go. And when you get these lines, and those of us that have hung around politics long enough know this, war on red tape, how many times do we have to hear it? I remember years ago when Lara was Premier, she sort of looked at me quite earnestly and said, well, you give me examples, Becher, of where the red tape's applied and I'll do something about it. She was getting quite shirty. And I sort of understood, I've always taken that on board. But I've got to say, my interaction with government, they're definitely taking it seriously. They're definitely doing something about it. I think, in truth, some members of government have trouble understanding what red tape is, and don't seem to sort of understand that, it's bureaucracy that's unrequired or unessential to the purpose of government. And so they go a bit cross-eyed when you sit there and you say to them, well, do we really need to be doing this? Why do we need this kind of regulation and those kind of things? And obviously, there's still a bit of disconnect with the bureaucracy, no doubt. That will take quite a while to turn around. But anyhow, I suppose the proof is in the pudding that there's no doubt that they are going well. They're very receptive to ideas, I've got to say, which is great. So at least you can have the conversation and have we could look at that as part of this process. I'm still waiting to see where I think you said it was the ETU, I call it the Razor Gang, where the Razor Gang's at, who's in the Razor Gang, what's happening with it, seems to
very quiet.
Seems to have faded away. But, that's, to me, the next step of this process is a line-by-line forensic examination of the expenditure of government to work out if there's any efficiencies that can be found. Gets back to my point of at least let's ask the questions. So it'll be interesting to see when we get an update on that, who's going to make that up and how they're going to go about that process. It can't be that far away, I've got to say.
Yeah, maybe it's being held up by red tape.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I think there's somewhere on the web, on the internet now where you can, if you've got red tape, you can actually, if you know of it, you can actually log in and lodge it and ask.
And Labor, Beach.
Yeah.
Labor. I picked up the Advocate newspaper today. I didn't pick it up. I picked up the electronic copy.
Yep.
Only paper that's worth its weight in hard copies at Tas Country. Anyway, I picked up the electronic copy of the Advocate, and there's Mr. Winter is on the front of the Advocate today. See, I haven't seen this. No, Winter's there on the front. Bit remiss of talking about how he's he's not often that you see Mr. Winter on the Advocate.
You guys love Mr. Winter.
I've got a lot of time for him, thank you, Adel.
This is an attractive man.
No.
I would love everyone. Anyway, so Mr. Winter's talking about how he's going to make some tough decisions, and he's going to deal with the budget situation. I'll be very interested to see what those tough decisions are, should they come to fruition. Maybe all back privatisation, given his previous comments, and his chief economic advisor is still future Senator. Proto-capitalist, economic rationalist, Dickie Dowling. They did make one announcement a couple of weeks ago, or Mr. Willie did, might have been last week, stolen, holus bolus from the FontCast, which is they're going to abolish associate secretaries, Beach.
Yeah.
We should send him a bill.
Yeah.
Send him a bill.
Say something else. Well, I get the...
Well, to give them their credit, they are working on it.
Who says people don't listen?
Yeah, I think that's very true. Look, I think they are working on it, and I think your comment about lift the jaws off the floor is probably good. It's caught them on the hop, as it were.
So these associate secretaries, remember, Beach, I actually did a bit of digging as to how they came about.
Yeah.
Remember, they're between secretaries and deputy secretaries.
Well, they sort of appeared. Did we ever read the media release on
Well, no, I've done some research, and apparently they came about during COVID.
Oh.
So what they were meant to be was a bit of a redundancy, and in case, the secretary and the 15 deputy secretaries all died from COVID, that you'd have an additional person there authorised.
just in case?
Maybe
Very oblations.
How many did die from COVID?
Well, not many, but that was the thinking at the time. Reminds me, Beach, a little of a certain former Prime Minister and his as many ministries.
Multiple ministries, that's exactly right.
Same sort of thinking, it would appear. Anyway, apparently there's 3 of them now. Three associate secretaries, not sure exactly where, but there's 3. Further, apparently, so I understand there will be 2 soon. So,
okay.
I don't know what they're on, maybe 350, 400 each, I don't know. So 700, 800 grand saving a year, should they be abolished? And they should be abolished. But I noticed Mr. Winter and Mr. Willie were saying they could save 8 million over 4 years by abolishing them. So, I'm not sure that's quite right. Very, Shane Broad areas there, you could say, in terms of your adding up.
Yes, all right. So, yes. Which, speaking of which, Mr. Broad, I was going to hold this until a little bit later in the show, but...
What is this, an exclusive?
Well, I think it is. Well, there you go. I think it's you heard it first. So I'm hearing I've got to say on very good authority that Mr. Broad is actively considering whether to pull stumps on his parliamentary career.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Well, he hasn't been seen very much, if at all, since that rather creative set of numbers, which were the opposition costings at the last election campaign, which is disappointing because, everyone makes mistakes, and I would have thought it would have been sensible to get back on the horse, or the rowboat in his case. Yep. But no, he hasn't been anywhere really, has he?
Well, look, I hope it's not true, I've got to say.
I said hearing it on good authority, so come on.
Okay. Well,
It is true that he's considering.
Yes, and I wish it wasn't true, to tell you the truth. I think Shane is a good man. I think my observation would be, and I haven't spoken to him for a while, but he does seem to be in a little bit of a funk. And really, Tasmanian Parliament needs every good, passionate person we can find, and Shane's one of them. He's got a good brain. He, living on the northwest coast, has a different view of Tasmania from Labor's point of view, and it's a good view. It's a healthy view. And I think that's been his challenge. He sees himself a bit set apart from all the things down here in Hobart, and I think that sort of rankles him a bit. But anyhow, I hope that we this isn't the last we've seen of Shane Broad. There you go.
Good on him for looking after his mental health, though. You said he's in a funk. Does that mean he's a bit down?
I think that's the definition, yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. And we've seen other politicians as well put their hand up and say, I'm not feeling well. Having the stones to say, perhaps I need to make a massive change, that...
It is. But I think your wife, and that's fair enough too, but I think, the point Becher's making is a good point.
We lose a good...
Labor's problem at the moment is, at the last election, they didn't bring any new talent, apart from Ms. Brown, into the parliamentary party room.
Yep.
And since the election, they've lost Rebecca White. People know I'm not her biggest fan, and she was an appalling opposition leader, but she would have been a sound minister.
Oh, and she was, she still is, a very hard-working...
And so they've lost her.
Yeah.
They lose Shane Broad.
They lose that grunt.
They're losing the capacity that they need to present a credible alternative.
That's correct.
Government. It'll be a real problem for them now. Yeah. The late great Michael Hodgman used to have a lot of sayings. Most of them you couldn't repeat on air, but one of them was, and I think it's a really pertinent one, Shane. Never explain, never apologise, and never ever beep resign.
Yep.
Because it's forever. And you can ask Malcolm Turnbull. He actually resigned from Wentworth. Said he was not going to recontest the election. I think it was the 2013 election. He wasn't going to recontest. Changed his mind, and then became Prime Minister. Yeah. So I'm not saying he's going to become Prime Minister, but it's it's never too late in politics to reconsider.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I would strongly encourage him to, and I think you are as well, Brad, which is great. Right. Well. I think, Brad, we're nearly at that point in the app where what's old is new. There's a couple of things here that would be remiss of us to not put a FontCast together and not mention. I might give you the floor.
Yeah, I don't know whether you were paying attention yesterday, Beach. You were working very hard, so you may not have been.
Was a bit distracted.
Running around, trying to save the salmon industry on the West Coast. Very successfully. But yesterday there was some parliamentary committee hearings. I think the Public Accounts Committee met, and both the ferry fiasco and the stadium are back in the news. Like a double header. They're back. They haven't gone away.
Yeah, okay.
Oh no, you're shocked, Beach. I know you are shocked.
I am.
So
it's good because sometimes we do scratch for content.
We do. Brad, so that's right. So just for our loyal listeners, in case you haven't caught up with the news, apparently cricket has finally worked out that putting a roof on the stadium will make it a bit tricky to play cricket there. Not so much worried about hitting the ball into the roof, more the dappled light on the pitch being an issue.
Can I I love cricket. I don't watch as much cricket
The Irish are famous for that. I came out, they played here once, I remember. I went and saw them.
Cricket and World game, you will. What is that called?
Yeah,
They were great.
yeah, cricket's on the rise in Ireland, and they play it now. They used to not play it at all. But look, but I mean, I love cricket. I grew up with it, but I haven't watched a lot of it in recent time. I'm trying to think of a roofed stadium. Is that a common for a test? I mean, I assume it is for the the other forms of the match.
No, it's not. I mean, it's very uncommon.
Yeah.
There's obviously a roof over Docklands, Marvel, whatever it's called now, stadium in Melbourne.
Yep.
And they did play cricket there initially. And I think Mike Hussey famously hit the ball onto the roof and caused a bit of a drama. And I don't think they play there anymore. That risk sort of permanently closed. So
it's more the MCG. Would that?
well, the MCG doesn't have a roof yet.
Yeah, but it sort of has overheads. Get it?
Well, the stadium set cover is not a roof.
Okay, all right.
Sound like the Premier.
Well, I was watching the news last night, and
Well, I think
the point was,
but I think you've made it.
roof.
I think you've made the point here. So I was interested that, to this point, it's been roof. Yeah, contract says roof. And then yesterday we got the Premier, and you obviously saw it on the news. His beach, and I was at the inquiry saying, "Oh no, what's a roof? A roof can look very, very many different forms of a roof. Doesn't have to necessarily stop the rain coming in."
Okay. Okay. All right. No.
Well, I mean, like chicken wire.
Well, many.
Clearly, many roofs, and it depends what sport you're playing as to what roof you need. I think, but I mean, to me, it has never made sense that we need a roof on the stadium. We have the second driest capital in Australia.
Yeah.
And I think it was more about Gillen thinking, down in Tasmania, it's cold and wet. Therefore, we need a roof. And I think that's about the extent of it.
I mean, I don't deny going to Bellreeve in the middle of summer with that southerly howling up the Derwent.
Yep.
Can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need a roof. So, yeah, it'll be interesting, Beach. If we got cricket saying no roof, got AFL saying roof, who's going to win in that?
Yeah. Battle of the Goliaths. Battle of the Titans. Yes. Well,
No roof would be a lot cheaper.
yes.
And I did notice, just in passing, you don't want to labour the point,
We've
but
got a couple of stadiums with no roofs.
there's been a new stadium announced in Queensland. I don't
Yep.
think it has a roof. I didn't check. For the Olympics, one that Mr. Christopherly promised not to build, and now he is building.
Okay.
Apparently, the cost of that $5 billion.
$5 billion.
63,000 seats, though. So
Well,
it's obviously a factor of
2.5, or three. Three. So
must be goal slating.
yeah, it must mean we're getting a real bargain here then, Brad, doesn't it? Because we're under $1 billion, easily under $1 billion.
And anyway, so the stadium ain't gone away. Keep your eyes peeled for that one.
No.
And the other issue, Beach, was the Ferry fiasco is back. So according to our friend David Killick, that's found it.
There we go.
He must have been dragged himself down to hearing of the Public Accounts Committee yesterday, and
Straight from the street party, no doubt.
not sure whether he's in Lycra or not. But anyway, the chair,
Sorry, I hope he was in Lycra.
the chair of Tasmania's Public Finance Corporation, Mr. Tony Farrell,
Well, Farrell, well, wasn't he the former head of Treasury?
immediate past head of Treasury.
Oh, okay. And then now he's head. That'd be a fair
No,
lucrative role.
they never retire. Beach, they just get cynics. That's the way it works in Tassie.
They just fail.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was there, and in fairness, he's a very competent administrator. I wouldn't doubt that. And he runs the TasCorp, which is basically the government bank.
Yep.
TasCorp loans money out at very competitive rates, primarily to the government business enterprises and various other government instrumentalities. And if you're so lucky as a private sector, you might get some money off them as well. But he was saying that as a result of the blowout in the cost at the Berth 3 in Devonport, and as a result of the delays and various other factors, that the TT line might need an actual cash injection from the state government to stay afloat. See what I did there?
Oh, you did. Kabam. Now, forgive me. Have they had any cash so far? I know they've been squirreling it away over many years.
No, I don't believe so. So, I mean, obviously, I have a little bit of corporate memory in this space. So when we came to government in 2014, we took the decision, very sound decision, to get the ferries refurbished, the existing ferries, and they were refurbished for around about, feels like 30 million or something around the time. A lot of money at the time. And
were they refurbished here or refurbished elsewhere?
I'm sure it was locally.
Oh, sure it was.
Certainly wasn't on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
The decision was made to refurbish them with a view to acquiring new ferries.
Yep.
And at that point, the decision was also made that TT Line would no longer be required for the foreseeable future to pay dividends.
I do recall that.
And the money from the dividends was set aside to help pay for the cost of the new ferries.
Well,
so that money has been accumulating over time.
Well, I've got to say, it really is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, TT Line is effectively a government-subsidised monopoly on Bass Strait. Some would say a licence to print money. So it really does beg a belief that they'd need a government bailout.
Yeah.
And in my mind, really highlights the need to have a serious look at the government and what it's taking, what it's doing with regards to government-owned businesses. I mean, again, it begs the question, why do we own these businesses? What are we owning them for?
Yeah.
The question has got to be asked. Are we owning them to make money? Well,
no.
Right. Are we owning them to deliver a service? Yes.
But it's almost fully government subsidised, so
yeah,
someone else would almost certainly do it.
Someone could deliver it. So, and if the argument was put to me, has this organisation been acting in the state's interest, then I would question whether not getting the berth complete on time.
Just question that, would you?
Well,
You're being generous.
I'm being subtle in the way I deliver it, to suggest that perhaps if it's not doing what we want it to do, then why do we own it? When if it was owned by the private sector and we could direct it through legislation, we could probably get some better outcomes.
Yeah.
Would be my sense.
So, more to come in that space. And I don't know, when are they arriving? We haven't seen them yet.
No.
Waiting.
No, and isn't the number 5 must be getting tested soon, or, perhaps
maybe they're refitting it so they can use this one for a floating refugee ship instead.
And do we know where we're putting them when they arrive? Or no, we don't. I still think Grassy,
Grassy
was my
Harbour,
call.
your bed.
Grassy Harbour was my call. Yep, that's me.
In Tasmania, but out of sight.
What's wrong with Hobart?
Well,
You get to these big boats, the big cruise ships come in here, but surely we can find
So
space.
fantastic.
I know somebody who used to work at Macquarie Point, who might be able to
Hook them up.
hook them up.
Let me know.
The Hobart Port is the second deepest deepwater port in the southern hemisphere, second only to, I believe, Hong Kong.
Well, that'd have been a little over. So
Everybody getting out up the top of the state and dropping down.
I think the answer is second only to Tribunna.
Oh, Tribunna. There you go. Well, we'd put them in Tribunna, couldn't we?
Yeah, next to that ship mill.
Yeah. Okay.
If Dale.
Yeah. Okay, it's time.
Yes, I've got enough. Yep.
Yep. Look, FontCast is brought to you by Enterprise Marketing Research Services, Tasmania's leading research provider.
That's right.
Thank you, Brad.
Great to be here.
Thank you, Sam.
Very happy to be here. You asked me to respond. I usually just...
I don't. Well, there you go, because I felt it was appropriate given that we'd had a good chat with you. Thank you.
And Becher, can you just give that address again?
I will.
I will. Remind people.
GiveSendGo.com. GiveSendGo.com/Sam Ikin. I-K-I-N.
Okay.
And thank you to anyone who shares it, looks at it, pokes it, whatever. I appreciate every gesture. So send me a prayer.
There you go. Don't forget, you can catch us on our new, I don't know how new it is now, YouTube channel, FontCast. FontCast is produced and directed by Sam Ikin from Ikin Media.
And long may that be the case.
And long may that continue. Until next time, carry on.